Now somebody watching the YouTube video is going to want to know why I started laughing immediately. It's because it's this obnoxious computer voice. We are being recorded. Actually, we should just have that voice all the time as we walk around. It's like a dystopian novel here, right? Okay, so welcome to the second House of Humane Letters read along. I'm very excited about us coming together to read some Greek tragedy tonight. You won't need the tissue boxes till tomorrow, so you'll be okay. We did one earlier in the winter that was Paradise Lost. So if you want to check that out, you can find it on our YouTube channel. We recorded all of those and have them available for you. So obviously this one's going to be different than Paradise Lost because last time we just took turns reading and crying. How great was that? We cried our way through Paradise Lost. But tonight will be different because we've got a play. We've got Sophocles' Antigone. And so we're going to let everybody put on their dramatic personae and see what kind of acting chops we've got in this group. So we're actually going to act it out. We're going to do roughly the first half tonight. I asked the local classicist here, very local to me. There is no person more local than this guy right here. I asked him just to pick what would be like a good stopping point. So I know it wasn't exactly half, but we went for dramatic stopping point there. Before we start, just a quick reminder, this week we have a webinar at the House of Humane Letters. We've got James Banks, the other Mr. Banks, who's got a master's in Renaissance literature, is going to be leading us through the Shakespeare's Henry trilogy, the Henriade. So if you want to find out about that, you can go to houseofhumaneletters.com and that information will be right there. So we chose Antigone tonight as our read along because we are covering this play in our podcast, Literary Life Podcast. That first episode will drop next Tuesday, June 22nd. And so we will all get a chance to read this together before we start discussing it. And one last detail before we jump in for tonight's read along, we are using the store translation, which is available in the public domain. You can find it on Project Gutenberg. I put the link to that on the website. So I think that's it. So without further ado, our director for tonight is Joan from Japan. So we'll let you take it away. So if you're in the cast and your lines are coming up, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, but everybody else will ask that you keep muted because we'll get a bunch of distracting noises. So without further ado, take it away, Joan.
Good evening. Okay. There is an, I forget the word for it. Thomas can say what the word for it is. The thing at the beginning that wasn't on our printout cast, so don't freak out. He's going to read that right quick. And then as soon as he is finished, then we can jump in with Antigone and Ismene. All right. Take it away, Thomas.
Yes, ma'am. Antigone, the argument. Antigone, daughter of Oedipus, the late king of Thebes, in defiance of Creon, who rules in his stead, resolves to bury her brother Polynices, slain in his attack on Thebes. She is caught in the act by Creon's watchmen and brought before the king. She justifies her action, asserting that she was bound to obey the eternal laws of right and wrong in spite of any human ordinance. Creon, unrelenting, condemns her to be immured in a rock-hewn chamber. His son, Humane, to whom Antigone is betrothed, pleads in vain for her life and threatens to die with her. Warned by the seer Tiresias, Creon repents him and hurries to release Antigone from her rocky prison, but he is too late. He finds lying side by side Antigone, who has hanged herself, and Humane, who has also perished by his own hand. Returning to the palace, he sees within the dead body of his queen, who on learning of her son's death has stabbed herself to the heart.
Could you also read the play?
Oh yes, and here's the dramatis personae, the characters of the piece. Antigone and Ismene, daughters of Oedipus and sisters of Polynices and Eteocles, Creon, king of Thebes, Humane, son of Creon, betrothed to Antigone, Eurydice, wife of Creon, Tiresias the prophet, chorus of Theban elders, a watchman, a messenger, and a second messenger.
Ismene, sister of my blood and heart, seest thou how Zeus would in our lives fulfill the weird of Oedipus, a world of woes? For what of pain, affliction, outrage, shame is lacking in our fortunes, thine and mine? And now this proclamation of today, made by our Captain General to the state, what can its purport be? Didst hear and heed, or art thou deaf when friends are banned as foes?
To me, Antigone, no word of friends has come, or glad or grievous, since we twain were reft of our two brethren in one day by double fratricide. And since in the night our Argive leaguers fled, no later news has reached me to inspirit or deject.
I know 'twas so, and therefore summon thee beyond the gates to breathe it in thine ear.
What is it? Some dark secret stirs thy breast.
What but the thought of our two brothers dead, the one by Creon graced with funeral rites, the other disappointed. Eteocles he hath consigned to earth, as fame reports, with obsequies that use and wont ordain, so gracing him among the dead below. But Polynices, a dishonored corpse, so by report the royal edict runs, no man may bury him or make lament, must leave him tombless and unwept, a feast for kites to scent afar and swoop upon. Such is the edict, if report speak true of Creon, our most noble Creon, aimed at thee and me, I me too, and anon he will be here to promulgate, for such as have not heard his mandate. 'Tis in sooth no passing humor, for the edict says, whoe'er transgresses shall be stoned to death. So stands it with us. Now 'tis thine to show if thou art worthy of thy blood or base.
But how, my rash fond sister, in such case can I do anything to make or mar?
Say, wilt thou aid me and abet? Decide.
In what bold venture? What is in thy thought?
Lend me a hand to bear the corpse away.
What? Bury him despite the interdict?
My brother, and though thou deny him, thine. No man shall say that I betrayed a brother.
Wilt thou persist, though Creon has forbid?
What right has he to keep me from my own?
Bethink thee, sister, of our father's fate, abhorred, dishonored, self-convinced of sin, blinded, himself the executioner. Think of his mother-wife, ill-sorted names, done by a noose herself, had twined to death, and last, our hapless brethren, in one day, both in a mutual destiny involved, self-slaughtered, both the slayer and the slain. Bethink thee, sister, we are left alone. Shall we not perish, wretchedest of all, in defiance of the law we cross, a monarch's will? Weak women, think of that, not framed by nature to contend with men. Remember this too, that the stronger rules. We must obey his orders, these or worse. Therefore I plead compulsion and entreat the dead to pardon. I perforce obey the powers that be. 'Tis foolishness, I ween, to overstep in aught the golden mean.
I urge no more. Nay, wert thou willing still, I would not welcome such a fellowship. Go thine own way. Myself will bury him. How sweet to die in such employ, to rest, sister and brother linked in love's embrace, a sinless sinner, banned awhile on earth, but by the dead commended, and with them I shall abide forever. As for thee, scorn, if thou wilt, the eternal laws of heaven.
I scorn them not, but to defy the state or break her ordinance, I have no skill.
A specious pretext. I will go alone to lap my dearest brother in the grave.
My poor fond sister, how I fear for thee.
Oh, waste no fears on me. Look to thyself.
At least let no man know of thine intent, but keep it close and secret, as will I.
Oh, tell it, sister. I shall hate thee more if thou proclaim it not to all the town.
Thou hast a fiery soul for numbing work.
I pleasure those whom I would liefest please.
If thou succeed, but thou art doomed to fail.
When strength shall fail me, yes, but not before.
But if the venture's hopeless, why essay?
Sister, forbear, or I shall hate thee soon, and the dead man will hate thee too with cause. Say I am mad, and give my madness rein to wreck itself. The worst that can befall is but to die an honorable death.
Have thine own way then, 'tis a mad endeavor, yet to thy lovers thou art dear as ever.
Sunbeam of all that ever dawn upon our seven-gated Thebes, the brightest ray. O eye of golden day, how fair thy light o'er Dirce's fountain shone, speeding upon their headlong homeward course, far quicker than they came, the Argive force, putting to flight the ardent shields, the host with scutcheons white, against our land the proud invader came, to vindicate fell Polynices' claim, like to an eagle swooping low, on pinions white as new-felled snow, with clanging scream, a horsetail plume his crest, the aspiring lord of Argos onward pressed. Hovering around our city walls he waits, his spearmen raven at our seven gates. But ere a torch our crown of towers could burn, ere they had tasted of our blood, they turn, forced by the dragon in their rear, the din of Ares panic struck they hear. For Zeus, who hates the braggart's boast, beheld the gold bespangled host. As at the gold the paean they apprise, he struck them with his forked lightning blaze. To earthy from earth rebounding, down he crashed. The firebrand from his impious hand was dashed. As like a Bacchic reveler, on he came, outbreathing hate and flame, and tottered. Elsewhere in the field, here, there, great Ares, like a war horse wheeled, beneath his car down thrust, our foemen bid the dust. 7 captains at our 7 gates thundered, for each a champion waits, each left behind his armor bright, trophy for Zeus who turns the fight. Save 2 alone, that ill-starred pair, one mother to one father bare, who lance in rest, one 'gainst the other drave, and both perished, brother slain by brother. Now victory to Thebes returns again, and smiles upon her chariot-circled plain. Now let feast and festal shout, memories of war blot out. Let us to the temples throng, dance and sing the live night long. God of Thebes, lead thou the round, Bacchus, shaker of the ground. Let us end our revels here. Lo, Creon, our new lord, draws near, crowned by this strange chance, our king. What, I marvel, pondering, why this summons? Wherefore call us, his elders, one and all, bidding us with him debate on some grave concern of state?
Elders, the gods have righted once again our storm-tossed ship of state, now safe in port. But you, by special summons, I convened as my most trusted counselors. First, because I knew you loyal to Laius of old. Again, when Oedipus restored our state, both while he ruled and when his rule was over, ye still were constant to the royal line. Now that his 2 sons perished in one day, brother by brother, murderously slain, by right of kinship to the princes dead, I claim and hold the throne and sovereignty. Yet 'tis no easy matter to discern the temper of a man, his mind and will, till he be proved by exercise of power. And in my case, if one who reigns supreme swerve from the highest policy, tongue-tied by fear of consequence, that man I hold, and ever held, the basest of the base. And I can contemn the man who sets his friend before his country. For myself, I call to witness Zeus, whose eyes are everywhere. If I perceive some mischievous design to sap the state, I will not hold my tongue, nor would I reckon as my private friend a public foe, well knowing that the state is the good ship that holds our fortunes all. Farewell to friendship, if she suffers wreck. Such is the policy by which I seek to serve the commons, and conformably I have proclaimed an edict as concerns the sons of Oedipus. Eteocles, who in his country's battle fought and fell, the foremost champion, duly bury him with all observances and ceremonies that are the guerdon of the heroic dead. But for the miscreant exile who returned, minded in flames and ashes to blot out his father's city and his father's gods, and glut his vengeance with his kinsmen's blood, drag them captive as at his chariot wheels. For Polynices, 'tis ordained that none shall give him burial.
shall give him burial or make mourn for him, but leave his corpse unburied to be meat for dogs and carrion crows, a ghastly sight. So am I purposed. Never by my will shall miscreants take precedence of true men, but all good patriots alive or dead shall be by me preferred and honored.
Son of Menosis, thus thou wiltst to deal with him who loathed and him who loved our state. Thy word is law. Thou canst dispose of us, the living, as thou wiltst, as of the dead.
See then ye execute that what I ordain.
On younger shoulders lay this grievous charge.
Fear not, I've posted guards to watch the corpse.
What further duty wouldst thou lay on us?
Not to connive at disobedience.
No man is mad enough to court his death.
The penalty is death, yet hope of gain hath lured men to their ruin oftentimes.
My lord, I will not commence to pant and puff as some light-footed messenger. In sooth, my soul beneath its pack of thought made many a halt and turned again. For conscience plied her spur and curb by turns. Why hurry ahead thy fate, poor fool? Then again, if Creon learn this from another, thou wilt rue it worse. Thus, I had on my much thought a furlong to a league, but in the end, the forward voice prevailed to face thee. I will speak, though I say, for plucking courage from despair, methought, let the worst hap, thou canst but meet thy fate.
What is thy news? Why this despondency?
Let me premise a word about myself. I neither did deed nor saw it done, nor were it just that I should come to harm.
Thou art good at parry, and canst fence about some matter of grave import, as is plain.
The bearer of dread things needs must.
Then, sirrah, shoot thy bolt and get thee gone.
Well, it must out. The court fair. Someone in now besprinkled it with thirsty dust, performed for ritual on.
What sayest thou? Who hath dared to do this thing?
I cannot, for there was ne'er a tray, pick, or mattock, or without a scratch, rut of chariot wheels, no sign that hands had been at work. When the first of the morning watch gave the alarm, we all were terror-stricken. The corpse had vanished, not interred in earth, but strewn with dust, as if by one who sought to avert the curse that haunts the unburied dead. Of hound or ravening jackal, not a sign. Thereat arose an angry war of words. Guards railed at guard, and blows were like to end it, for none was there to part us. Each in turn suspected, but the guilt brought home to none from lack of evidence. We challenged each the ordeal, or to handle red-hot iron, or pass through fire, affirming on our oath our innocence. We neither did the deed ourselves, nor know who did it or compassed it. Our quest was at a standstill when one spake and bowed us all to earth like quivering reeds, for there was no gainsaying him, nor way to escape perdition. You're bound to tell the king, you cannot hide it, so he spake, and he convinced us all. So lots were cast, and I, unlucky scapegoat, drew the prize. So here I am, unwilling and withal unwelcome. No man cares to hear ill news.
I had misgivings from the first, my liege, of something more than natural at work.
Oh, cease, you vex me with your babblement. I am like to think you dote in your old age. It is not arrant folly to pretend that gods would have a thought for this dead man. Did they forsooth award him special grace, and as some benefactor bury him, who came to fire their hallowed sanctuaries, to sack their shrines, to desolate their land, and scout their ordinances? Or, perchance, the gods bestow their favors on the bad. No, no, I have long noted malcontents who wagged their heads and kicked against the yoke, misliking these my orders and my rule. 'Tis they, I warrant, who suborned my guards by bribes of evil currents upon earth. The worst is money. Money 'tis that sacks cities and drives men forth from hearth and home, warps and seduces native innocence, and breeds a habit of dishonesty. But they who sold themselves shall find their greed outshot the mark, and rue it soon or late. Yea, as I still revere the dread of Zeus, by Zeus I swear, except ye find and bring before my presence here the very man who carried out this lawless burial, death for your punishment shall not suffice. Hanged on a cross, alive, ye first shall make confession of outrage. This will teach you what practices are like to serve your turn. There are some villainies that bring no gain, for by dishonesty the few may thrive, the many may come to ruin and disgrace.
May I not speak, or must I turn and go without a word?
Be gone. Canst thou not see that in this question irks me?
Where am I? Is it thy ears that thy heart?
Why seek to probe and find the seat of pain?
I go thine ears, this miscreant thy mind.
What an inveterate babbler, get thee gone.
Babbler perchance, but innocent of the crime.
Twice guilty, having sold thy soul for grain.
Alas, how sad when reasoners reason wrong.
Go quibble with thy reason. If thou failest to find these malefactors, thou shalt own the wages of ill-gotten gains is death.
I pray may be found, but caught or not, and fortune must determine that. Thou never shalt see me here returning, that is sure. For past all hope or thought I have escaped, and for my safety owe the gods much thanks.
Many wonders there be, but not more wondrous than man. Over the surging sea, with a whitening south wind wan, through the foam of the firth, man makes his perilous way. And the eldest of deities, earth, that knows not toil nor decay, ever he furrows and scores, as his team, year in, year out, with breed of the yoked horse, the plowshare turneth about. The light-witted birds of the air, the beasts of the weald and the wood, he traps with his woven snare, and the brood of the briny flood. Master of cunning he, the savage bull and the hart, who roams the mountain free, are tamed by his infinite art, and the shaggy, rough-maned steed is broken to bear the bit. Speech and the wind-swift speed of counsel and civic wit, he hath learnt for himself all these, and the arrowy rain to fly, and the nipping airs that freeze neath the open winter sky. He hath provision for all, fell plague he hath learnt to endure, safe whate'er may befall, yet for death he hath found no cure. Passing the wildest flight of thought are the cunning and skill that guide man now to the light, but now to counsels of ill. If he honors the laws of the land and reveres the gods of the state, proudly his city shall stand. But a cityless outcast I rate, who so bold in his pride from the path of right doth depart. Ne'er may I sit by his side or share the thoughts of his heart. What strange vision meets my eyes, fills me with a wild surprise. Sure I know her, sure 'tis she, the maid Antigone. Hapless child of hapless sire, didst thou recklessly conspire, madly brave the king's decree? Therefore are thy hailing thee?
Here is the culprit, taken in the act of giving burial. But where's the king?
There from the palace he returns in time.
Why is my presence timely? What has chanced?
No man, my lord, should make a vow, for if he ever swears he'll not do a thing, his afterthoughts belie his first resolve. When from the hailstorm of thy threats I fled, I swear thou wouldst not see me here again. But the wild rapture of a glad surprise intoxicates, and so I'm here, forsworn. And here's my prisoner, caught in the very act, decking the grave. No lottery this time, this prize is mine by right of treasure trove. So take her, judge her, rack her if thou wilt. She's thine, my liege, but I may rightly claim hence to depart well, quit of all these ills.
Say, how didst thou arrest the maid, and where?
Burying the man. There's nothing more to tell.
Hast thou thy wits, or knowst thou what thou sayest?
I saw this woman bury the corpse against thy orders. Is that clear and plain?
But how was she surprised and caught in the act?
It happened thus. No sooner had we come, driven from thy presence by those awful threats, than straight we swept away all trace of dust and bared the clammy body. Then we sat high on the ridge to windward of the stench, while each man kept he fellow alert and rated roundly the sluggard if he chanced to nap. So all night long we watched, until the sun stood high in heaven, and his blazing beams smote us. A sudden whirlwind then upraised a cloud of dust that blotted out the sky and swept the plain and stripped the woodlands bare and shook the firmament. We closed our eyes and waited till the heaven-sent plague should pass. At last it ceased, and lo, there stood this maid. A piercing cry she uttered, sad and shrill, as when the mother bird beholds her nest robbed of its nestlings. Even so, the maid wailed as she saw the body stripped and bare, and cursed the ruffians who had done this deed. Anon, she gathered handfuls of dry dust, then holding high a well-wrought brazen urn, thrice on the dead she poured, seized our quarry. Undismayed she stood, and when we taxed her with the former crime and this, she disowned nothing. I was glad and grieved, for 'tis most sweet to escape oneself scot-free, and yet to bring disaster to a friend is grievous. Take it all in all,
Speak, girl, with head bent low and downcast eyes. Does thou plead guilty or deny the deed?
Guilty. I did it. I deny it not.
Sirrah, begone whither thou wilt, and thank thy luck that thou hast escaped a heavy charge. Now answer this plain question, yes or no. Wast thou acquainted with the interdict?
I knew, all knew. How should I fail to know?
And yet wert bold enough to break the law?
Yea, for these laws were not ordained of Zeus, and she who sits enthroned with gods below, justice, enacted not these human laws. Nor did I deem that thou, a mortal man, couldst by a breath annul and override the immutable, unwritten laws of heaven. They were not born today, nor yesterday. They die not, and none knoweth whence they sprang. I was not like, who feared no mortal's frown, to disobey these laws and so provoke the wrath of heaven. I knew that I must die, e'en hadst thou not proclaimed it. And if death is thereby hastened, I shall count it gain, for death is gain to him whose life, like mine, is full of misery. Thus my lot appears not sad, but blissful. For had I endured to leave my mother's son unburied there, I should have grieved with reason, but not now. And if in this thou judgest me a fool, methinks the judge of follies not acquit.
A stubborn daughter of a stubborn sire. This ill-starred maiden kicks against the pricks.
Well, let her know the stubbornest of wills are soonest bended as the hardest iron, or heated to the fire to brittleness, flies soonest into fragments, shivered through. A snaffle curbs the fiercest steed, and he who in subjection lives must needs be meek. But this proud girl, in insolence well schooled, first overstepped the established law, and then, a second and worst act of insolence, she boasts and glories in her wickedness. Now, if she thus can flout authority unpunished, I am woman, she the man. But though she be my sister's child, or nearer of kin than all who worship at my hearth, nor she nor yet her sister shall escape, the utmost penalty, for both I hold, as arch conspirators of equal guilt. Bring forth the older. Even now I saw her within the palace, frenzied and distraught. The workings of the mind discover oft dark deeds in darkness schemed before the act. More hateful still the miscreant who seeks, when caught, to make a virtue of a crime.
Wouldst thou do more than slay thy prisoner?
Not I, thy life is mine, and that's enough.
Why dally then? To me no word of thine is pleasant. God forbid it e'er should please, nor am I more acceptable to thee. And yet, how otherwise had I achieved a name so glorious as by burying a brother? So my townsmen all would say, were they not gagged by terror. Manifold the king's prerogatives, and not the least that all his acts and all his words are law.
Of all these Thebans, none so deems but thou.
These think as I, but bate their breath to thee.
Hast thou no shame to differ from all these?
To reverence kith and kin can bring no shame.
Was his dead foeman not thy kinsman too?
One mother bare them, and the selfsame sire.
Why cast a slur on one by honoring one?
The dead man will not bear thee out in this.
Surely, if good and evil fare alive.
The slain man was no villain, but a brother.
The patriot perished by the outlaw's brand.
Nathless, the realms below these rites require.
Not that the base should fare as do the brave.
Who knows if this world's crimes or virtues there?
Not even death can make a foe a friend.
My nature is for mutual love, not hate.
Die then, and love the dead if thou must. No woman shall be master while I live.
Lo, from out the palace gate, weeping o'er her sister's fate, comes Ismene. See her brow, once serene, beclouded now. See her beauteous face o'erspread with a flush of angry red.
Woman, who like a viper unperceived didst harbor in my house and drain my blood, 2 plagues I nurtured blindly, so it proved, to sap my throne. Say, didst thou too abet this crime, or dost abjure all privity?
I did the deed, if she will have it so, and with my sister claim to share the guilt.
That were unjust. Thou wouldst not act with me at first, and I refused thy partnership.
But now thy bark is stranded. I am bold to claim my share as partner in the loss.
Who did the deed, the underworld knows well. A friend in word is never friend of mine.
O sister, scorn me not. Let me share thy work of piety, and with thee die.
Claim not a work in which thou hadst no hand. One death sufficeth. Wherefore shouldst thou die?
What would life profit me, bereft of thee?
Ask Crayon. He's thy kinsman and best friend.
Why taunt me? Find'st thou pleasure in these jibes?
'Tis a sad mockery, if indeed I mock.
Oh, say if I can help thee even now.
No, save thyself. I grudge not thy escape.
Is e'en this boon denied, to share thy lot?
Yea, for thou chosest life, and I to die.
Thou canst not say that I did not protest.
Well, some approve thy wisdom, others mine.
But now we stand convicted both alike.
Fear not, thou livest. I died long ago then when I gave my life to save the dead.
Both maids, methinks, are crazed. One suddenly has lost her wits, the other was born mad.
Yea, so it falls, sire. When misfortune comes, the wisest even lose their mother wit.
Aye, faith, thy wit forsook thee when thou madest thy choice with evildoers to do ill.
What life for me without my sister here?
Say not thy sister here, thy sister's dead.
What? Wilt thou slay thine own son's blessed bride?
Aye, let him raise him seed from other fields.
No new espousal can be like the old.
A plague on trolls who court and woo our sons.
Oh, Hymen, how thy sire dishonors thee.
A plague on thee and thy accursed bride.
What? Wilt thou rob thine own son of his bride?
'Tis death that bars this marriage, not his sire.
So her death warrant, it would seem, is sealed.
By you, as first by me, off with them, guards, and keep them close. Henceforward, let them learn to live as women use, not roam at large. For in the bravest spirits run away when they perceive death pressing on life's heels.
Thrice blessed are they who never tasted pain. If once the curse of heaven attaint a race, the infection lingers on and spreads and speeds apace, age after age, and each the cup must drain. So when Etesian blasts from Thrace downpour, sweep o'er the blackening main, and whirl to land from ocean's cavernous depths his ooze and sand, billow on billow thunders on the shore. On the Labdacidae I see descending woe upon woe from days of old. Some god laid on the race a malazon, and his rod scourges each age with sorrows never ending. The light that dawned upon its last born son is vanished, and the bloody axe of fate has felled the goodly tree that blossomed late. O Oedipus, by reckless pride undone. Thy might, O Zeus, what mortal power can quell? Not sleep that lays all else beneath its spell, nor moons that never tire, untouched by time, throned in the dazzling light that crowns Olympus' height. Thou reignest king, omnipotent, sublime. Past, present, and to be, all bow to thy decree. All that exceeds the mean by fate is punished, love or hate. Hope flits about on never wearying wings, profit to some light loves she brings. But no man knoweth how her gifts may turn, till 'neath his feet the treacherous ashes burn. Sure 'twas a sage inspired that spake this word: if evil, good appear to any, fate is near, and brief the respite from her flaming sword. Hither comes in angry mood Heman, latest of thy brood. Is it for his bride he's grieved, or her marriage bed deceived? Doth he make his mourn for thee, maiden forlorn, Antigone?
Is that where we decided to stop it?
I think that was.
Yes, that I was going to say, and that's the end of the reading for tonight.
All right. Wow, that was fast. Okay. Wow. Thank you all very much for that. So I was bouncing up and down here off camera. I cannot wait to talk about this on the podcast. And I know we said we weren't going to talk about it tonight, so I'm just going to say this. Y'all see the big theme, right? Law of man versus law of God. Here we go. Boom. They're going to hammer it out right here. This is going to be good. All right. Well, we will see you here for the exciting and sad and tragic conclusion tomorrow night. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Great job.